Well, that speech to the boy is 8 pages of solid dialogue. And I had it for 4 months before we started. And I did other things, but I would study it every day. And it always made me laugh.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Mr. Walken, this is a massive honor for me. Thank you for taking the time, sir. I appreciate you.
Hi.
I think all of us can relate to this idea of needing to detach from work and leave it all behind and go home at the end of the day. Obviously, you've delivered some of the greatest performances of all time and some of the greatest movies ever made. I'd love to know, was there ever a performance, a film that you needed to really detach yourself from, where you sort of said, listen, I got to leave this behind at the end of the day. I cannot bring this role home with me.
Yeah, I can't say exactly why, and it certainly doesn't happen often, but I can remember a part that I was very anxious to get over with and get away from. It was a movie called Comfort of Strangers. I played this guy who was deeply disturbed, and he got under my skin. I couldn't wait for it to be over.
That's so interesting. I've got to tell you, I love Ben Stiller as a director. I feel like he's got a really great eye as a storyteller and a filmmaker. You've worked, obviously, some of the greatest directors of all time, whether it be Steven Spielberg or Michael Cimino or Clint Eastwood, Tim Burton, and obviously Tarantino. Obviously, the wildly different storytellers and different filmmakers. But I'm always curious, do all great directors have any single thing in common? Is there any commonality that connects all great directors?
Yes, they all have a certain quality. Uh, well, one of them is that the really terrific directors also are terrific actors. Once in a while, you'll see them acting, and they're very, very good. Mike Nichols, Scorsese, these guys. But the other thing that they have in common is that when you're with them, you realize you're in very good hands. You realize that whatever it is they're doing with you, it's going to turn out good. And if it isn't good, it won't be in the movie. You know that when you see the movie, you're going to be pretty good, which is it's a real bonus. If you take a job with one of those guys, you're going to like it.
The work shows exactly what you're talking about. I mentioned Quentin Tarantino this year.
Quentin Tarantino's a terrific actor. I don't know if you've seen him here.
He's a great. I loved him in From Dusk Till Dawn. He was fantastic.
He's always terrific. Sidney Pollack.
I never would have thought that those guys were sort of acting. I mean, it makes sense though. But speaking of Mr. Tarantino, this year is the 30th anniversary of Pulp Fiction. And I host a show here in Chicago called The Moments That Made Us, where I talk with the people who gave us some of the greatest moments in movie history. And I think one of the greatest monologues in the history of film is your monologue from Pulp Fiction. And I'd love to just ask you what you remember about that day on set and shooting that monologue, and what your favorite memories of working on Pulp Fiction and with Quentin Tarantino are.
Well, that speech to the boy is 8 pages of solid dialogue. And I had it for 4 months before we started. And I did other things, but I would study it every day. And it always made me laugh. And then when we came to shoot it, I remember we got there, it was the last day of shooting. Everybody had done everything and they'd gone home. And it was just me and the little boy. And we got there at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and we shot till lunchtime. And then it was done. So we shot that in just a few hours on the last day of shooting. And it was simple.
It does not come across as simple on camera. It comes across as absolute genius. They're pulling me out of here, Mr. Walken. I got to say, everyone has their first theatrical experience memory in their mind. Mine is being 5 years old and my parents taking me to Batman Returns. You as Max Shrek, one of my favorite performances and cinematic experiences of my life, sir. So thank you for giving us some of the greatest performances of all time. It's always an honor to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.